I was 19 female when this happened. I attended church most of my life, where the people there were like family. My sister, who I was always very close to, was 18. There was a new guy that started coming. He was 28. He was in the middle of getting his degree, like he had a good head on his shoulders. But something seems off with him. It appeared that I was the only one who felt this way. I observed him running after a group of children, and the pit of my stomach would feel sick. He seemed to have an attraction to my sister, too. She was 18, but always looked younger for her age. He would always have a sick smile on his face when talking with her. Again, nobody else seemed to notice but me. Another woman from the church commented to me that the guy seemed like a good catch, and we should set him up on a date together. I opened up about my suspicious feelings to my mom and to a few others, but they would laugh it off as me being jealous. I would have nightmares about warnings that my sister needs to stay away from him. I would learn later that my sister went on a secret date with him. This guy insisted that they meet at her house. He wanted her address, but she said no, we'll meet at a public place. Soon after, the pastor's wife mentioned to my mom after church that this guy had been jailed for being a child molester. He was out on probation and trying to get his life together. My mom felt sick after that. She gave me a huge apology. Now my feelings made sense. My sister was afraid of him now, but didn't want to let on that she knew what he did. He wanted a second date, but I was with her when she told him. She was just too busy with college. He thankfully left her alone and soon left the church. I had heard very soon after that he was rearrested for doing the same for raping another teenager. I ended up leaving that church for good. Someone else could have been hurt because this was kept secret, but they wanted to help rehab him somehow. I learned a valuable lesson, and as always, trust your instincts. Back in the late 80s, just before my mom and dad had met, my mom was working in a mall in Plymouth, Wisconsin, where she grew up. Nothing about the mall was sketchy or wrong, but it was not the nostalgia-filled malls you see on TV today. It was a normal mall. One day she met a man. This man was charming, good-looking, and seemed friendly enough, so she was surprised when he asked her out for a date. The date, to her, was normal enough, but she didn't see anything special happening, and she just didn't feel right about it. Needless to say, she decided to not give him a second chance date. Life went on, my mom and my dad met, they got married, so on and so forth. Well, in the early 90s, I don't remember specifically what year, she was pregnant with my oldest sibling, and she was watching the news one day while waiting for my dad to get home from work, when she noticed something odd about this man they had arrested. She had realized it was the man that she went on a date with years prior. The man in question was Jeffrey Dahmer, who had been a serial killing and eating several boys and men during the time of their meeting. I'm sure this bothered her at the time, but ever since I've heard the story, my brothers, mom, and I joke about it, even though it may not be an appropriate thing to joke about. I don't think either of them back then thought the relationship would go any further, but I don't like to think about how much danger she could have possibly been in had she dated him long term. So, quite a number of years ago, my cousin and I were on summer break at our house, playing 007 on the GameCube and passing the time, when we heard what sounded like broken glass on tile. The TV was up pretty loud, so we paused it, tensely waiting for another sound. Then we heard the sound of flip-flop sandals walking around in the kitchen area. So my cousin called her mom, my aunt. She asked my aunt, who was a nurse, if she was home from work yet. My aunt was not home, and of course wanted to know why we were asking. Once we told her, she told us to crawl out the window and run to the neighbors as quickly as we could while she called the cops. The bedroom window luckily led to the backyard, just next to the gate. So we got the F out and started running. Fast forward an hour or so, and the cops informed my aunt that there had been an obvious break-in. The window on the back door had been broken, and there was a note left for my aunt. Now my aunt had recently gotten into a serious relationship with this super nice guy. We'll call him Josh. Well, Josh's ex-wife, however, was not so nice. She had at some point followed my aunt home and found out where she lived. She then proceeded to break in through the back door, rummage through a bunch of stuff, and leave a horrible note for my aunt. I can only imagine what it said. From what I heard, she was arrested. I'm not sure if any charges were pressed, but she later committed suicide, leaving behind a daughter and a son whom I both went to school with. I also later found out that she suffered from severe bipolar disorder and a couple other things. Tragic, but I'm glad me and my cousin weren't caught up in her psychotic episode more than what we were. Still freaks me out to think about it. This encounter happened 1 year ago. I was living in Barcelona and had a great apartment. I was very close to the beach, had amazing views. Barcelona is not unsafe, but is very popular for tourists, so the area is a bit noisy, with tourist shops, street sellers, pickpockets, and homeless travelers. So it's not the most charming neighborhood. I was working from home due to COVID, and I was on a call for work. I always worked in front of a window as I enjoyed watching the view. All of a sudden, the doorbell rang. While I did not expect anyone, I ignored the ring as I was on a very important call with a client and thought it was maybe one of the neighbors from upstairs trying to reach out. The doorbell kept ringing a second and a third time. This was really annoying. I needed to concentrate and not be disturbed on this really important phone call. My call with the client finished and the doorbell rang a fourth time, so I went downstairs to check what was going on. I opened the door and there stood an older guy around 60 years old with long hair, but he looked disheveled. In a compelling way, he told me that he had to be in my apartment as he and his colleagues were shooting a movie and needed to make some shots from my balcony with sea views. I was confused and still a bit stressed because of the call, so I asked for more of an explanation. He said that he asked permission to my landlord. I was super annoyed because I was super busy with work, and for some reason my gut feeling told me to not trust this guy. I think it's because he just looked really shabby. I said that I was sorry, but that I had a very busy day at work and I had to go, and the landlord should have called and warned me ahead of time. He was annoyed and said that it was really important and would only take 10 minutes. But I told him that I really need to go and closed the door. I just really had a very weird feeling and started to get scared. I went back upstairs, and from the window I could see the guy standing close to the apartment for another half hour. I did not see anybody around him, so I realized he was probably lying. I continued work, did not leave my apartment that day at all. I mailed the landlord and told him that I did not give this man approval to make a video in my apartment. The next days I checked my window before going outside, as I was still skeptical about the whole thing. Luckily, I never saw the man again. Now, a year later, I moved back to my home country, and sometimes I wonder what could have happened if I let this guy enter my apartment. Was he just a burglar who thought a woman alone would be an easy target? Or did he even have a worse intention? Guess I will never know. But I am relieved I don't live there anymore, and I don't need to worry about him being around my house. Has anyone else experienced anything similar? So, for some background, I'm in secondary school, year 11, but have a few different diseases, one of which causes me to look like I'm 10 from delayed growth. In reality, I am much older. I'm a guy, mind you. Anyway, I leave class early to get to the next class, or lunch, due to another issue. So basically I end up in an empty hallway where I eat lunch, but 5 minutes early. It is well lit to the outside city and also plenty of artificial lighting. Not the kind of hallway you'd expect anything to occur in. Of course, I am very wary because sexual assault does exist in males and can certainly happen when you can't fight back. Never happened to me yet, nor do I get any bad vibes from classmates. I don't even expect it, nor should I. But lately, I've been using the washroom in the hallway after eating, and this caretaker always stands by me when I go in. I don't use the normal washroom, I use the staff one. The caretaker is a guy, and I believe he has a Spanish accent. Most people here have no accents and speak clear English, so I always know when he, in particular, is talking to me. Moving on from that, whenever I go and sit in my usual spot, he is usually in the hallway and often asks how my day was. I am nice, of course, but I found it weird after so many encounters. He would often stand near me when I was sitting down and getting all of my lunch ready before everyone else arrived. He even knows my first name, and twice asked where I lived. I told him a lie, and that I lived in a town over. Once he offered me a table to stand at. There are many other tables around, and he doesn't ask the other 100 plus kids that sit down if they want tables. Also, I should mention that when lunch is going on, he doesn't watch anyone in the hallway, but he only hangs out there when there is nobody but me and another guy. By the way, the other guy is old, quiet, and either looking outside or on his phone, and isn't really someone giving off bad creepy vibes. If this guy wasn't there, I'd be even more scared of being alone in the hallway. That's about as far as the situation has progressed, but I did see a very similar Reddit post about a caretaker who asked a girl at school very similar things to me, offered her stuff, etc. So I'm worried. What do you guys think? When I was walking down the hallway after leaving the library at school, I noticed a swarm of students running past me like the Lion King stampede scene. My mind said, holy fuck, this is an active shooter? And my heart was exploding and beating like crazy. I turned around and almost started to run, but I saw some dumb chicks that were fighting and surrounded by many students. I'm telling you, I was so relieved and a little bit mad because they scared the shit out of me.